Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is R.S. Raghu, and with me is Nishit Kumar bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment, and more. The headlines. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to participate in Quad Leaders Summit in Tokyo on 24th of May. Bilateral meetings with Quad leaders also on the agenda. Nikhat Zareen wins gold medal at World Boxing Championship in Istanbul. India is emerging as a country from software to space and is ready for a new future, says Prime Minister Modi. New Delhi says BRICS nations must display zero tolerance for terrorism, especially cross-border terrorism. India will continue to provide humanitarian assistance to Afghanistan. Information and Broadcasting Minister Anurag Thakur stresses on India's ability to become content hub of world and preferred destination for post-production hub of films. Turkey tells allies that it will reject Sweden and Finland's membership to NATO amid US President Joe Biden meeting with Swedish and Finnish leaders. United States has no legal authority to seize Russian central bank assets, says US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. And Indian men's compound team stunts hosts South Korea to enter Archery World Cup Stage 2 final. Women's team win bronze. Prime Minister of India, Mr. Narendra Modi, will participate in Quad Leaders Summit in Tokyo on 24th of this month at the invitation of Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida. US President Joe Biden, Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison and the Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida will participate in the summit. Briefing media in New Delhi on Thursday, External Affairs Ministry spokesperson Narendra said the summit in Tokyo is the fourth interaction of Quad leaders.
The summit in Tokyo is the fourth interaction of Quad leaders since their first virtual meeting in March 2021, and of course the in-person summit in Washington last September, and the virtual meeting in March this year.
The spokesman said the forthcoming Quad summit provides an opportunity to the leaders to exchange views about developments in the Indo-Pacific region and contemporary global issues of mutual interest. The leaders will review progress of Quad initiatives and working groups, identify new areas of cooperation and provide strategic guidance and vision for future collaborations. Mr. Bakshi said Prime Minister Modi will have a bilateral meeting with his Japanese counterpart and participate in business events.
The meeting with Prime Minister Kishida will provide an opportunity for the two leaders to carry forward their conversations from the 14th India-Japan Annual Summit, which was held in March 2022 in Delhi. During his visit, Prime Minister will participate in business event with Japanese business leaders. He will also address and interact with the Indian community in Japan.
The spokesman said that the Prime Minister will hold bilateral meeting with US President Joe Biden and exchange views on regional and global issues.
The US Prime Minister will have a bilateral meeting with the US President on 24th May. The meeting will mark a continuation of the regular dialogue, having interacted most recently in virtual mode on 11th of April this year. The two leaders are expected to review the India-US strategic partnership and follow up on discussions held during Prime Minister's bilateral meeting with President Biden last September. They will also exchange views on regional and global developments of shared interest.
Mr. Modi is also likely to hold bilateral talks with his Australian counterpart. Elections are scheduled to be held in Australia on the 21st of this month. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said that India is the new hope of the world today amidst the global turmoil. Addressing the Yuva Shivir in Vadodara, Gujarat through video conferencing, Mr. Modi said that today we are taking a collective resolve for making efforts to build a new India. He said that the world is looking towards India with a new hope for a peace in the midst of global unrest and conflicts. He said that a new India is with new identity and forward-looking with ancient traditions. He said that such a new India should give direction to the entire mankind. Mr. Modi said that we are showing the path of yoga and the power of Ayurveda to the entire humanity.
हम पूरी मानवता को योग का रास्ता दिखा रहे हैं, आयुर्वेद की ताकत से परिचित करवा रहे हैं। हम सॉफ्टवेयर से लेकर स्पेस तक एक नए भविष्य के लिए तत्पर देश के रूप में उभर रहे हैं।
He said that we are emerging as a nation looking forward to a new future from software to space. Mr. Modi said that from delivering vaccines and medicines to the world in the midst of the corona crisis, we have created hope of a self-reliant India amidst scattered supply chains.
कोरोना काल के संकट के बीच दुनिया को वैक्सीन और दवाइयां पहुंचाने से लेकर बिखरी हुई सप्लाई चेन्स के बीच आत्मनिर्भर भारत की उम्मीद तक वैश्विक अशांति और संघर्षों के बीच शांति के लिए एक सामर्थ्यवान राष्ट्र की भूमिका तक भारत आज दुनिया की नई उम्मीद है।
President Ramnath Kovind met Governor General of St. Vincent and Grenadines, Miss Dame Susan Dugan, on the second day of his visit to the Caribbean nation on Thursday. They discussed strengthening cooperation in the fields of IT, health, education, tourism, culture, and in the multilateral fora. The two sides also signed MOUs on exchange of information and assistance in collection of taxes and on refurbishment of old Calder community project. President Kovind also visited the botanical garden where he planted a sandalwood sapling and attended cultural performances. Later in the day, President Kovind addressed Parliament of St. Vincent and Grenadines. President Kovind said, to tackle the complex issues of today, the new world order that we seek to build is to be an inclusive world order where every country can express its legitimate interests. He said the need of the hour is reform of global institutions with the UN Security Council at its core to reflect the contemporary global reality. He noted that on this issue, India and St. Vincent and the Grenadines share common interest, approach and understanding.
India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar participated in the BRICS Foreign Ministers meeting on Thursday. He highlighted 8 key points during the meeting. Dr. Jaishankar said we must not only seek socio-economic recovery from COVID pandemic, but also create resilient and reliable supply chains. He said knock-on effects of the Ukraine conflict have led to sharp increases in the cost of energy, food, and commodities, and this must be mitigated for the sake of the developing world. The External Affairs Minister said the BRICS has repeatedly affirmed respect for sovereign equality, territorial integrity, and international law, and we must live up to these commitments. He said BRICS should unanimously and specifically support UN Security Council reforms. Dr. Jaishankar said, together, we should press for credible commitment of resources by developed nations for climate action and climate justice. He said BRICS must display zero tolerance for terrorism, especially cross-border terrorism. The External Affairs Minister said a globalized and digitized world will give due regard to trust and transparency. He said sustainable development goals must be approached in a comprehensive manner. India has expressed concern over the global food insecurity and underlined need of collective work to alleviate sufferings of the most affected. Addressing a high-level ministerial meeting on global food security call to action in New York, Minister of State for External Affairs V. Muralidharan said that COVID-19 pandemic and the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine have impacted the developing countries with spiraling energy and commodity prices and disruption in the global logistical supply chains. Mr. Muralidharan pointed, citing the Global Report on Food Crisis 2022 said that 139 million people have suffered across the world from the conflict-induced acute food insecurity. He said India will play its due role in advancing the global food security in which it will uphold equity, display compassion and promote social justice. In view of the deteriorating humanitarian situation in Afghanistan, India is donating 50,000 metric tons of wheat to the people of Afghanistan. He said India has continued its humanitarian support for Myanmar, including a grant of 10,000 tons of rice and wheat. The minister said India is also assisting Sri Lanka, including with food assistance during these difficult times.
The Ministry of External Affairs on Thursday said India has continued to provide humanitarian assistance to Afghanistan, particularly supplies of wheat, medicines and vaccines. Replying to a query on reopening of Indian embassy in Kabul, Ministry spokesperson Arindam Bagchi said that following deterioration in security situation in Kabul, the ministry had to relocate all India-based personnel.
Following the sharp deterioration in security situation in Kabul in August last year, we had to relocate all India-based personnel out of Afghanistan. Given our historical ties with the Afghan people, we have continued to provide humanitarian assistance, particularly supplies of wheat, medicines and vaccines. As regards a specific query about reopening of embassy, if there is any update, we will certainly share it with you.
On food security, the spokesman said there has been an unjustified hike in the food prices. He said India is committed to ensuring that such adverse impact on food security is effectively mitigated and the vulnerable are cushioned against such changes. He pointed out that India announced some measures regarding wheat export on 13th of May which allow export on the basis of approvals to those countries who need it to meet their food security demands. He said this policy will ensure that India truly responds to those who are in need. Mr. Bagchi said it is necessary to adequately appreciate the importance of equity, affordability and accessibility of food grains. He said India has always been supportive and helped its partners in distress even during COVID. He said India's measures on wheat exports should be seen from that context. Replying to a query on U.S. Special Envoy Uzra Zia's visit, Mr. Bagchi said she met senior officials of the Indian government. He added that discussions focused on global and regional issues of mutual interest. Both sides also discussed follow-up to Prime Minister's participation in the Summit for Democracy in December last year that was hosted by U.S. President Joe Biden. On reports of another Chinese bridge at Pangong Lake, the spokesman said the situation is being monitored and talks are on with the Chinese side. This is All India Radio giving you the news. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on Twitter at AIR News Alerts. Now news about India at Cannes Film Festival.
Information and Broadcasting Minister Anurag Thakur stressed that India has the ability to become the content hub of the world and the preferred destination for post-production of films. He said the government policies are aimed at boosting India's media and entertainment ecosystem, which is expected to generate $53 billion annually. Speaking during the India Forum on India, the content hub of the world, Mr. Thakur said Indian cinema has been entertaining not only Indians but the global viewers as well. He said India's journey has been beautifully captured by cinema and Indian cinema has played a crucial role and portrayed the country's fight for independence.
I stand before you honored to represent a civilization that is more than 6,000 years old. It's a great honor that India has been chosen as the country of honor at Marché du Films at the Cannes Film Festival. India and France are also celebrating the 75 years of their diplomatic ties. Cannes is also celebrating the 75th year. Over the years, Festival de Cannes has played a significant role in strengthening Indo-French relations. Indian content has been ruling the hearts and minds of the global audience, and the stepping stone was laid by bestowing the Palme d'Or to the prolific Indian filmmaker Chetan Anand's film Neecha Nagar in 1946.
Mr. Thakur said Indian media and entertainment sector is a significant contributor in economy and also showcases the country's soft power at the global level. He said the government has taken several initiatives in the last 8 years to boost co-production and film shoots in the country.
I'm delighted to announce that in Cannes, an incentive scheme for audio-visual co-production and shooting of foreign films in India with a cash incentive of up to 30% with a cap of $260,000 and in the case of foreign films being shot in India, an additional bonus with a cap of $65,000 for employing 15% or more manpower.
The minister said the government has set up the Animation, Visual Effects, Gaming and Comic or AVGC task force comprising of industry leaders to prepare a policy roadmap for India to take up a quantum leap in this sector. He said steps have been taken to preserve the cinematic heritage of the country through digitization. He said there is a huge potential that lies in the OTT market and the country is expected to grow at 21% annually in this sector.
India Red Carpet presence captured the diversity of our cinematic excellence, not only in the terms of representation of actors and filmmakers from various languages and regions, but also the OTT platforms with a strong presence of music composers and a folk artist who have enthralled audiences, young and old.
During the panel discussion, Chairperson of Central Board of Film Certification and veteran lyricist Prasoon Joshi, actor and director R. Madhavan, filmmaker Shekhar Kapoor, Secretary Ministry of Information and Broadcasting Apurva Chandra, among others, were also present. Mr. Shekhar Kapoor spoke about the effect of access to cheap broadband and mobile devices having a disruptive effect on the film industry.
We are one of the cheapest broadband connected nation in the world. We are one of the highest connectivity in the world. We have the largest technological resources in terms of engineers and computers and AI in the world. We have the highest number of current film technicians, cameramen, editors, costume designers, writers, directors. There are more directors currently shooting in India right now, I promise you, than currently every day than all the films that are being made in the UK.
He said that India is about to become the world's biggest influencer economy and that cinema will soon be redefined by the young filmmakers. Adding on the comments of Kapoor, lyricist Prasoon Joshi said, India is a pool of restless dreams, dreams that are restless to make it big, of looking forward.
In the corporate world, you see a lot of these startups and these which have so much of self-belief. There is so much of self-belief that this app I'm working on is going to make it big. And I think culturally, the same confidence of India needs to reflect that what I am, I'm not apologetic about, and I can say it the way I want to say. I think that confidence is now coming to India.
Mr. Scott Roxburgh said that the style of Indian storytelling needs a lot more to become appealing to the world market. Mr. Apurva Chandra contested the notion by Mr. Scott by citing movies like Lunchbox, Mr. and Mrs. Iyer and Rocketry that are typically Indian in their story but have resonated with audiences across the world.
There are Indian stories which have human values and which are common throughout the world. Rocketry, it is a human story which is typically Indian but will resonate throughout the world. Similarly, yesterday, Mr. Nawazuddin Siddiqui was here with us, Gangs of Wasipur, a typical Indian story but applies to large parts of the world. Then Lunchbox, a film which was financed by NFDC, which is part of government. NFDC was a producer of the Lunchbox, a film about dabbawalas, those who carry lunch boxes in suburban trains of Mumbai. Very, very typical story, but human emotions which resonate, throughout the world.
He further reiterated the incentives announced by the Government of India for filmmakers from across the world. R. Madhavan commented on how India has so much to tell the world in the field of science and technology, and cinema must explore this idea. From Aryabhat to Sundar Pichai, India has extraordinary stories which are aspirations of youngsters around the world. With Bhupendra's report, this is Saira Mujtaba for World News, All India Radio.
A Maharashtra delegation led by Maharashtra Cultural Affairs Minister Amit Deshmukh is reaching in Cannes tonight to participate in the ongoing Cannes Film Festival. Mr. Deshmukh said that it is a proud moment for Marathi film world that 3 Marathi films, Potra, Karkhani Sanchi Vari and Ticha Shahar Hona have been selected for the Cannes International Festival. He further said that the delegation is attending this festival with the aim of attracting international film audiences towards Marathi films, increasing the importance of films and tourist destinations in the country and attracting international film producers to invest in the Indian cinema. The representatives of selected Marathi films are also participating in this festival. India's Information and Broadcasting Minister Anurag Thakur paid floral tributes to Maharaja Ranjit Singh and Princess Banu Pandey in Saint-Tropez. He visited the Allard Square in Saint-Tropez, a coastal town on the French Riviera. Maharani Banu Pandey was born in Chamba, Himachal Pradesh. Speaking on the occasion, Mr. Thakur said that the India Connect of Saint-Tropez has not been lost even after 4 generations. He said the family of Maharani is immensely respected in Saint-Tropez and the family has preserved its Indian roots. The minister invited the mayor of Saint-Tropez, Sylvie Siri, and the deputy mayor, Allard Frederick, to International Film Festival of India in Goa to witness the Gala Festival.
Turkey has told allies that it will reject Sweden and Finland's membership to NATO. Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan said in a video posted on his Twitter account on Thursday, Finland and Sweden formally applied on Wednesday to join US-led NATO, a decision spurred by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Turkey's objections have come as a surprise to the other members of the alliance. The Turkish president said Sweden and Finland harbour and finance terrorists and supply them with weapons. He repeated Ankara's accusation that the country supports groups that it deems terrorist, namely the Kurdistan Workers' Party PKK militant group and Syrian Kurdish group YPG, which it also views as a terrorist group closely tied to the PKK. Erdogan said that the NATO is a security alliance and he cannot accept terrorists to be in it. Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden met the leaders of Sweden and Finland on Thursday to advance their applications to join the NATO military alliance as Turkey repeated its opposition to the move. United States does not have legal authority to seize Russian central bank assets frozen due to its invasion of Ukraine. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said this in Bonn on Wednesday. She said talks with U.S. partners over ways to make Russia foot the bill for Ukraine's post-war reconstruction are starting. Yellen also said it is likely that the special license granted to allow Russia to make payments to its U.S. bondholders would not be extended when it expires next week, leaving Russian officials a fast narrowing window to avoid its first external debt default since the 1917 Russian Revolution. Russia's military action in Ukraine is the central agenda item at this week's gathering of Group of 7 finance ministers. Yellen is calling for increased financial support for the war-torn country, which the World Bank estimates is suffering $4 billion in weekly physical damage. Yellen told reporters here ahead of this week's meetings. Some European officials have advocated that the EU, the United States and the other allies seize some $300 billion in Russian central bank foreign currency assets frozen by sanctions. The assets are held abroad but remain under Russian ownership.
Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi called on Thursday for an urgent ceasefire in Ukraine to enable a negotiated end to the war. He said Italy would continue supporting Kiev without ruling out the supply of weapons. Mr. Draghi has taken a hard line against Russia since its military action in Ukraine on February 24th. Indian boxer Nikhat Zareen clinched the gold medal at the 12th edition of the IBA Women's World Boxing Championships after registering a dominating 5-0 victory in Istanbul on Thursday. She thrashed Thailand's Jitpong Jotamas without breaking a sweat in the 52 kg final, with judges scoring the bout 30-27, 29-28, 29-28, 30-27 and 29-28 in Indians' favour. Nikhat became only the 5th Indian woman to secure gold medal at the World Boxing Championships after record 6-time champion Mary Kom, Sarita Devi, Jenny RL and Lekha KC. It is also India's first gold medal since boxing great Mary Kom won it in 2018. With Manisha in 57 kg and Parveen in 63 kg signing off with bronze medals after the semi-final finish, Indian contingent concluded its campaign with 3 medals at the world's biggest boxing event. The event witnessed exciting competition in presence of record 310 boxers from 73 countries. It also marked the 20th anniversary of the Women's World Championships.
The Indian men's compound team of Abhishek Verma, Aman Saini and Rajat Chauhan stunned the South Korean team to reach the final of the Archery World Cup 2022 Stage 2 in Gwangju, South Korea. The men's team, who had also won a gold at the Archery World Cup 2022 Stage 1 event held in Turkey last month, started the day by beating Italy in the first round. Then they played out the United States and beat them in the quarterfinals. In the semis against the host South Korean team in a shoot-off, the Indian team won 29-26. India will face France on Saturday in the final. Meanwhile, Indian women's compound team of Avneet Kaur, Muskan Kirar and Priya Gurjar won a team bronze in the recurve section to take their medals tally to 3 at the World Cup Stage 2. And now, a report from the business desk.
The Sensex plunged 1,416 points or 2.61% to finish at 52,792, while the Nifty declined 431 points or 2.65% to settle at 15,809. At the global stock markets, global stock posted heavy falls following Wall Street's worst day since mid-2020 yesterday. Asian markets fell amid worries over rising inflation and its impact on economy. Majority of Asian stocks today logged heavy losses except China's Shanghai Composite Index, which gained 0.9%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index tumbled 2.5% and Nikkei lost 1.9%. South Korea's Kospi declined 1.3% and Singapore's Straits Times ended 1.1% down. European shares also witnessed losses in intraday trade. Oil prices fell more than 1.5%, reversing early gains as traders grew less worried about a supply crunch after government data showed U.S. refiners ramped up output. In intraday trade, Brent crude was trading at around $107.30 per barrel. And at the forex market, the rupee weakened 14 paise against the US dollar. The rupee closed at 77 rupees and 73 paise against the US currency. Rajesh Lake for World News, All India Radio.
Now, let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. First, we have a look at the press reports on China. Al Jazeera writes China's small businesses buckle under lockdowns as expats exit. Beijing's controversial dynamic zero-COVID policy is hammering the world's second-largest economy. Reuters reports U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said on Wednesday that he discussed the possibility of North Korean nuclear or missile tests with China's top diplomat Yang Jiechi during a call focused on regional security issues and non-proliferation. Now let's have a look at the press reports on Nepal. The Himalayan Times writes that never before has the Prime Minister of India visited Nepal on more than 4 occasions. Narendra Modi holds the distinction of achieving this unusual feat. It's said that his visit to Lumbini will provide a great boost to it with the arrival of innumerable tourists in future. Besides, the truth of Lumbini being the Buddha's birthplace has finally triumphed with Prime Minister Modi's visit. The Annapurna Express reports that New Delhi seems keen on normalizing the relationship. New Delhi's renewed engagement with Kathmandu comes on the heels of growing interest shown by Washington and Beijing in Kathmandu.
Now let's have a look at the press reports on Balochistan. The Dawn reports that a no-confidence motion was submitted against Balochistan Chief Minister Mir Abdul Qudus Bijenzo in the Provincial Assembly on Monday with the support of some lawmakers from his own party. The Balochistan Post writes that Noor Jahan Baloch was picked up by the Pakistani security forces from her hometown of Hoshab district Gage in the middle of the night. She was kept in custody for over a day and then produced before the anti-terrorism court on Wednesday to be prosecuted. Now let's have a look at the press reports on Pakistan. The Daily Times reports that Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif on Wednesday launched a fresh drive of the anti-polio campaign by administering vaccine drops to children under 5 years. The anti-polio campaign was launched in view of the report of 3 new cases of the crippling disease in the country.
Now let's have a look at the press reports on Bangladesh. Inflation reached its highest levels in 18 months in Bangladesh, reports Dhaka Tribune. It rose by 0.07% to reach 6.29% in April. And hundreds of schools in Sylhet district have been closed due to flooding, reports the UNB.
And now a quick look at the headlines once again. Indian Prime Minister Modi to participate in Quad Leaders Summit in Tokyo on 24th of May. Bilateral meetings with Quad leaders also on the agenda. Nikhat Zareen wins gold medal at World Boxing Championship in Istanbul. India is emerging as a country from software to space and is ready for a new future, says Prime Minister Modi. New Delhi says BRICS nations must display zero tolerance for terrorism, especially cross-border terrorism. India will continue to provide humanitarian assistance to Afghanistan. Information and Broadcasting Minister Anurag Thakur stresses on India's ability to become content hub of the world and preferred destination for post-production hub of films. Turkey tells allies that it will reject Sweden and Finland's membership to NATO amid US President Joe Biden meeting with Swedish and Finnish leaders. United States has no legal authority to seize Russian central bank's assets, says US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. And Indian men's compound team stuns host South Korea to enter Archery World Cup Stage 2 final. Women's team win bronze. And now, before we end, let us listen to Mahatma Gandhi's favorite bhajan Vaishnav Jan by artists from Israel. And with that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.